Hello again. Welcome back, you ghoul, you gobbo. I hope you're having a magical day. And, well, thank you for taking the time to support the channel. I know you're excited. The Wilds of Eldrain. The full set has been spoiled. We are here for part 2 today. The first part, we went through like 120 cards. Today, we're going through the last 200 cards of the set. So a long video, right? We're going to break down each of the cards, kind of just getting a general awareness for the set, moving into some future videos with this awareness, discussing top 10s for each rarity, which is one of my favorite things to do for the set. And then we do have the early access event on Twitch for all of the streamers on the 31st and the 1st. Very excited for this. Make sure to come hang out. I'll be live on Twitch literally the whole time. And of course, we'll be filming content for YouTube while we wait for the 5th, which is the full release for everyone in Magic the Gathering Arena. All right, so if you want to support, it is really easy and it does really help. Leave a like. Boom! You're done. You nailed it. Thank you so much. And now if you'll join me in mispronouncing, well, probably 80% of the set, let's take a look at some new cards. Alrighty then. Here we are. And the last card we looked at in part 1 was the Howling Galefang. And again, if you've not seen part 1, check it out. There are a lot of good cards in that. And today we're going to start off with the Princess Flies on Horseback, which I do believe we may have already seen because some of the spoilers that came out were unofficial, right? We didn't get any thumb tokens, unfortunately, or thumb counters, but we did get some very blurry cards, so it's always nice to see them in a little bit of a higher quality. For 3 mana as an enchantment saga, exiling up to 1 target creature. Well, that's good. Furthermore, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains flying until the end of turn. That's phenomenal. And then finally, returning exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. A bit of a downside, but what we do see within the set is a lot of enchantment sacrifice. So you could definitely just sacrifice this enchantment before phase 3 triggers, and now you just have had yourself permanent exile. Furthermore, I believe you could also flicker it back into play, grabbing multiple creatures, and then sacrifice it. So actually a pretty cool card that I think is fairly interesting. Good value for an uncommon. Up next, we have the Werefox Bodyguard for 3 mana, the new Brutal Cathar. It did 2/2 with Flash, which is like, that's a big selling point here. And whenever it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target non-Fox until it leaves the battlefield. So it's not exiling copies of itself, because you could get into like an infinite loop there quite easily, as well as, copies of your opponents, because that gets kind of messy with the Brutal Cathar. It's like, I Brutal Cathar, your Brutal Cathar, and then I Brutal Cathar, your Brutal Cathar, getting my Brutal Cathar back, and it's just like this crazy thing that goes back and forth, which is kind of fun, but at the same time, this is just going to simplify it. I love the Flash. The Flash is really cool. So this is a great rare for me. We can sacrifice it, gaining 2 life. I'm sure that's relevant somewhere. Up next, we will have the Siphon Ego, sorcery speed, 1 black. Target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Then exile a card from your hand if you don't control a fairy. Okay, so I was putting some thought into this whole fairy dilemma. We all remember Demure Rogues from Eldrain. Hilarious. And now we're back with Demure Fairies. You guys, stop it. I might just get on the train. Last time we all seen this train crash coming, and we were just like, watched it hit, and it was terrible. I might just board the train. Let's get on this fairy bandwagon and ride it into oblivion, okay? Cool card, only really great with the fairies, which I believe have been pushed very aggressively. The Regal Bunnycorn for 2 mana. This still looks like an unofficial spoiler, if you ask me. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. That's ridiculous. This is a bonkers card. It's just not a human. However, maybe it's cool to get mono-white aggro away from humans. It's going to be hard with how good Coppercoat Vanguard is. But the Regal Bunnycorn is a step in the right direction. This is a very powerful card, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe finds itself not in a mono-white deck, but potentially in like a Selesnya deck. The fact that it's 1 white and a generic mana makes it easy to play across the board, right? Moving on, we have some additional Enchanted Tales. And of course, now these are reprints of, I don't want to call them historic because that's a format in Arena, but really cool enchantments of old that have been reprinted with new art. All right, easy. Parallel Lives for 4, an enchantment, and if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, create twice that many tokens instead, which is kind of crazy. We have Rest in Peace for 2. When it enters the battlefield, exile all graveyards, and if a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Goblin Bombardment for 2, sacrificing it, dealing 1 damage to any target. Sacrificing a creature, 1 damage to any target. Ooh, that's not good. Grasp of Fate for 3. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until it leaves the battlefield. That is very good, considering that's an ability that you pay 3/4 to target a single person. Now, this is, again, everybody, great commander card here. Omniscience for 10 big ones. Of course, you can cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. I always liked the Flood of Tears Omniscience combo. That was always a ton of fun for me. Moving on, and of course, those cards won't be playable in Standard unless already legal in Standard. They're legal in the format that they're already legal in, all right? They're just reprints with alternative arts. However, if you draft them, I think they're good to go. There may be a pre-ban list here as well that we could dive into maybe at the end of today's video as well. Moving on. Now that's why I said it's going to be a long video. Now, if you haven't already done it, slam that like button. It helps. We're just getting started. We're going to be here for a while longer. Gadwig's First Duel for 2 mana. This is a saga, which indicates that it's also an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, create a cursed roll token that is attached up to 1 target creature. And of course, it will become a 1/1. So this is pretty cool, right? Enchant target Shieldred. Then you go to Scry 2 on your next draw step, right? And now when your draw step hits, you'll grab these lore counters, okay? 1 a turn. You can also proliferate them. Keep this in mind. I believe if you're in Alchemy, LOL, you can remove them as well. And I'm not entirely positive if we have any removal of counters in Standard. We'll keep an eye out, though. And, of course, you can sacrifice them, as that is a kind of a pushed mechanic here as well. Finally, on the 3rd trigger, whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less, this turn, copy it and choose new targets for the copy. It's pretty good. Not bad value. You're getting to dunk on a creature, make it much easier to handle. You are scrying 2 and then, setting up for that 3rd trigger of just gaining double value, basically, off of a spell. And, keep in mind this only costs 2 to begin with. That's good value, right? It's just going to be, pretty specific to the deck that you're building. Bitter Chill for 2 as an enchantment aura. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature. An enchanted creature, which you've just tapped now, will not untap during its controller's untap step. And finally, when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, scry 1 and draw a card. Yeah, absolutely. This is not bad. The only thing that would make this better is if it was at instant speed with flash. But, we're going to take it as is. Typically, this is something that we're paying 2 for already. This just has the extra ability, which I think makes it strictly better than a lot of other things, to pay an additional 1, scry 1, draw a card. That's great, right? So nice to see. Ashiok's Reaper for 4 is a 3/3, and whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Not bad. That's not bad. A little expensive. Probably not playing it in Constructed, but not bad, not bad. You know, you can make an argument for it might enter a free-to-play deck just for that draw ability, and it's not once each turn. This is, you know, multiple triggers each turn, potentially. Of course, you know, how many things can you put into the graveyard? But with the roll tokens, maybe a couple. We like the draw. A little expensive. Going to be great in Limited. Soul Guide Lantern. Nice reprint here for 1. When it enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. Furthermore, you can tap it, sacrifice it to exile each opponent's graveyard, or pay 1, sacrificing it with a tap to draw a card. Extraordinary Journey for 2 blue plus a double X. Now this is a rare enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creatures, and for each of those cards, its owner may play it for as long as it remains exiled. And whenever one or more non-token creatures that enter the battlefield, and if they do so from exile, or a spell was cast from exile, you're going to draw a card, and this ability triggers only once each turn. So, you know, there's a lot to take in here, especially when I'm reading it. Laugh out loud. But in Mono Blue Field Wipe, I like the bounce. You know, Cyclone Summoner was my jam back in the day. It's expensive, but, you know, we've seen so much ramp, and I like this because, you know, let's say that your opponent has 4 things in play. You know, they're all 3, 4 drops or something, right? You can use 1 spell, albeit fairly expensive, you know, but it's going to bounce a couple things back to their hand, and, you know, the amount that you spend could potentially be less than they'll need to spend to replay all those things. Now, you're also going to get a draw on the back end, and if they can't replay them all in one turn, you'll probably get multiple draws, because it's once each turn, right? I like it. You know, we can maybe bounce this back to our hand as well. Return thing to your hand, or sacrifice it once it's in play and then grab it from the grave back to our hand, and maybe just cycle this. Could be good. I don't mind it, and it's pretty cool to see blue have more universal bounce. I liked the Turning Tide. What is it called? The Turning Tide? The Consuming Tide? You know, the return all but 1. But that was the problem. It was return all but 1. They got to keep that one thing and continue to bash down, which was kind of hard to overcome. Talon's Messenger for 3 as a Fairy Noble, a 1/3 with flying, and whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, draw a card, then discard a card. And whenever you discard a card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target fairy you control. And, you know, this is just choo-choo! Train crash incoming. Lookout standard. The, you know, makeshift connive ability's cute. It's like only fairies can connive. But you kind of get to put that counter anywhere, which is a little bit different. Nonetheless, it's good. You know, it's decent. You know, it itself doesn't have to attack to trigger it, right? So it's like you play attack with a different fairy, draw, discard, put a counter out, right? Very, very, very good. Whereas, yeah, just not looking forward to fairies. Speaking of that, we have another here, Likeness Looter for 2. It's a 1/1 with flying that can draw a card and then discard a card by tapping itself. It can also pay X to become a copy of a target card in your graveyard, or target creature card in your graveyard, but it will have flying as well, and this ability still. It's activated only at sorcery speed, and yeah, it's very good. 1/1 for 2. The draw, discard, the looting ability is nice, right? And then, you know, if the messenger is going to be putting these +1 counters on it, then that's going to be nice as well. Return Triumphant for 2. Sorcery speed. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Create a young hero role token attached to it, and it will get +1/+1 if its toughness is 3 or less whenever it attacks, which is great. So it's going to help out a couple times if it's a weaker creature, and if not, you're still going to get back into the battlefield. Mana value 3 or less for 2. Great sorcery speed, not the best, but the hero role, at the very least, maybe you don't apply counters, but what you can do is now sacrifice that role token because it's an enchantment, and a lot of decks revolve around that. So keep in mind that even though this hero token's no longer viable past 3 toughness, it kind of still is. Not dead after all for 1 at instant speed within black mana until the end of turn. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, and we're just starting. Until the end of turn, target creature you control gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Then create a wicked roll token attached to it. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. And when this aura is put into the graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life. What? That's a good comment, right? So, instant speed, 1 mana, grab a creature, basically back. They're going to try to remove it. You're going to put this on it. Then it comes back with a +1/+1 counter, and you get the enchantment to take care of. It'll lose that +1 counter when you do remove the enchantment, but of course, that's it's kind of like 2 bodies for 1 mana, and that's like really good, right? Because you're getting that creature that they're removing, and you're getting the token. I don't mind it. That's pretty good. Oh my lord. Moving on, we have the Raccoon. Raccoonzels, which I believe we've talked about. The Raccoon Familiar. Just to recap quickly, for 2 mana, you get yourself a 2/2 that can tap to add 1 green mana. Furthermore, you can pay 2 plus tap it, discarding a card, returning the Familiar to your hand, which allows you to first ramp, and then once you have enough mana, bounce this to your hand to cast the adventure, right? Cast the adventure, recast the creature, return the creature to your hand. Cast the adventure, cast the creature, return the creature, rinse and repeat. So for 7 mana at sorcery, mill 7 cards, put a creature, enchantment, or land from among the cards into the battlefield, which is really good. Just make sure you don't mill yourself out, okay? Ice Rot Sentry for 3, a 2/3 with Vigilance, and when it attacks, you may pay 2. When you do, tap target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, the Sentry will get +2/+1 until the end of turn. This is not bad. Now, this is a Vigilance creature that can become a 4/4. Very, very good for 3 mana, and can tap my opponent's creatures out. What? Okay, I see. Next up, we will have... Maybe we will have, I don't know. Uh-oh, now I've done it. Take me back. Good Google Chrome. Here we are. Unveiled Shepherd for 2 mana. Spirit Warrior, and when it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Rend to Shadows. As a sorcery adventure, creatures your opponent control get -1/-1 until the end of turn. I think that is phenomenal. This is like a little baby removal on, a regular creature that's not too bad, that has an ETB on it. Mind you, not the greatest, but it's there. I do not mind. 3 Bowls of Porridge for 2 mana as an artifact food, in which we can pay 2, tapping it, choosing one that's not been chosen, dealing 2 damage to target creature, tapping target creature, sacrificing it to gain 3 life. That's not bad, right? It's like a food token that does extra stuff. You can tap a creature, you can deal damage to a creature. Not the worst. Virtue of Persistence for 7 mana as an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a target creature card from the graveyard into the battlefield under your control. Okay. So that would be maybe a little expensive if it was not for the sorcery speed adventure, Lockthwain Scorn for 2. Target creature gets -3/-3 until the end of turn, and you gain 2 life, right? So the fact that this has additional value now basically for free makes it not so bad to run for 7. Yes, you still have to cast it for 7, but having it doesn't matter because you're not losing the utility of a more aggressive curve. Redcap Gutter Dweller for 4, double red here as a 3/3 Goblin Warrior with Menace. When it enters the battlefield, creating 2 1/1 black and, not black and red, just black rat creature tokens. With this, creature cannot block. So 4 mana, 3 creatures, pretty cool. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on the Redcap Gutter Dweller and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. That is not bad. We do see fairies being pushed. We also see, I don't know if it's to the same extent, but a Rakdos Rats deck. And, it's pretty cool. I'll allow it. Moving on, Godric, Cloaked Reveler for 3. This is a 3/3 legendary creature, human noble with haste. Celebration, my least favorite mechanic of the set. I think it is trash. As long as 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, Godric will become a dragon with base power and toughness of 4/4 flying and can pay 1 to give dragons you control +1/+0 until the end of turn. It's fine. It all depends on permanents that will make roll tokens, because that is a double permanent entering. But, we'll see. It's cool. It's a 3/3 with haste that can become a 4/4 with flying, as well as buff up a dragon tribal deck. Could be good, could be bad. Taken by Nightmares for 4 instant speed. Exile target creature if you control an enchantment. Scry 2. A little expensive, but when you're playing limited, you'll take whatever you can get. Flip a coin for 4 instant speed. Flick a coin will deal 1 damage to any target, and you will also create a treasure token. Okay. And you get to draw a card. Really? Oh, we're going all out here, aren't we? We don't mind this whatsoever. 1 damage to any target is fine. If it was target creature, bit of a bummer. Any target, that's pretty cool. Plus you get a treasure. Decent. And it replaces itself. Flick a coin. You're going to want to get used to that. It's a common. This is just good old-fashioned bang for your buck. Yes. Dutiful Griffin for 5. 4/4 with flying, and you can pay 3, sacrifice 2 enchantments. The Griffin will be returned from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, pretty expensive, but that ability is just like, especially in limited where removal is sparse. This thing needs to be exiled because it's coming back as a 4/4 with flying. That's no joke. Moving on. We will have the Stormkeld Vanguard. This is a 6 mana giant warrior. It can only be blocked by creatures with, power 3 or greater. I guess it can't be blocked with creatures power 2 or less. And then sorcery speed, adventure, destroying target artifact or enchantments for 2 mana. Not bad on the adventure, and the creature is just there as a 6/7. That's what I like. So, I don't know how, this isn't as good as the Mythic one, obviously, but it's still, relatively viable. It's artifact enchantment removal, which, sometimes you're running that for 2 mana anyways, and now you just happen to have a 6/7 on the back end. So, could be good, could be bad. It's not bad. It's pretty good value. We'll just see if it is enough. 1 cat here. Beautiful. Gush Spellcaster, Spelloosh, for 4 mana as an elemental wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a sorcerer roll token, attaching it up to 1 target creature you control. The sorcery roll token, I believe, is whenever this creature attacks, scry 1, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if it gets a +1/+1 or not. Maybe we'll run into another card to teach us about that. It's definitely when it attacks scry, though. This much I am sure of. Agatha's Champion for 5 as a 4/4 human knight with bargain. Now remember when I said bargain's really good to sacrifice roll tokens with. Trample. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. as a 4/4. So that's great. Not bad. Really nice limited creature here that can remove, something not as cool. The Discerning Financer for 3 mana as a 2/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And then we can pay 3 to choose another target player. That player gains control of target creature, and you draw a card. Target treasure you control, they'll gain control of. I may have misread that. But I got excited when I seen you draw a card. I just jumped right to it, right? This is actually really good value for an uncommon. It's nice to see something, for the people. Moving on, we have a few more Enchanted Tales. Impact Tremors for 2. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Forced Fruition for 6. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. Okay. And finally, we have Utopia Sprawl. As it enters the battlefield, choose a color, and whenever an enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional mana of the chosen color. Beautiful. Moving on, we have Cut In for 4 mana, dealing 4 damage to target creature at sorcery speed, creating a young hero role token, attaching it up to 1 target creature you control. Again, that's +1/+1 when it attacks if its power is 3 or less. Brave the Wilds for 1 at sorcery with Bargain. If this spell was Bargain, target land you control becomes a 3/3 and has haste. It is still a land. Searching your library for a basic land, revealing it, putting it into your hand, then shuffling. Chancellor of Tales for 4 is a Fairy Advisor 2/3 with flying, and whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it and choose new targets for the copy. Okay, a little expensive 4 mana on a creature. I get it, but it's, it's an ability that still exists, which is cool to see him trying it out. Hopeless Nightmare, 1 mana as an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. And when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2. Furthermore, we can pay 3 to sacrifice it. What? That's a lot of good for 1. 1 mana, they discard a card and lose 2 life. So it's shocking them and forcing a discard? And then when it's put into the graveyard, because we're going to be sacrificing it, we get to scry 2. All right, whatever you say. Whatever you say, man. That's an uncommon card. That could easily be rare, couldn't it? What am I missing here? That's all upside, baby. Moving on. We have the Creek of Gami Tolo. This is a 3/3 with flying, and it does have Tear the Seam, I know, right? For 3 mana at instant speed as the adventure, destroying target tapped creature. That's not bad. Instant speed, destroy tapped creature, 3 mana, 3/3 with flyer for 4. The 4 sucks, but this adventure is not bad. That's a good one. That's a good one. Two-Headed Hunter, 5 mana, 5/4 with menace. Instant speed adventure, Twice the Rage for 2 mana. Target creature gains double strike until the end of turn. Not too shabby, not too shabby. Good body as well. Limited players be loving this. Picnic Ruiner for 2, a 2/2, and whenever Picnic Ruiner attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it will gain double strike until the end of turn. Sorcery speed adventure within Stolen Goodies for 4 mana, distributing 3 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. Good. It's good value, I guess. Nothing I'm racing to get, but in limited, I would definitely be taking that just for the value. Corvold and the Noble Thief for 4. On its first 2 triggers, you're going to create a treasure token, and then on its third, exiling the top 3 cards of your opponent's library, and you may play those cards this turn. I just hate playing my opponent's cards, My deck has synergies that work together. Their cards are usually not working well within my deck. This screams control, who's got no cards anyways, and you're just gaining card advantage, but I don't know. I like the create the treasures. It's 4 mana, though. Why wouldn't I just big score, and draw cards from my own library and do it all on 1 turn at instant speed? I don't know. We'll see. Knight of the Sweet's Revenge For 4 mana, when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Furthermore, food you control will have tap to add 1 green mana. That's nice. We like this. Paying 7, sacrificing it. Creatures you control get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of food you control. All right. Not too shabby. The fairy fencing for 1+X at instant speed. Target creature gets -X until the end of turn. That creature gets an additional -3 until the end of turn. If you control fairies, you cast this spell. All right, choo-choo! Train wreck incoming. Armory Mice for 2. Celebration. I hate this mechanic, but it's good with the roll tokens. Getting +0/+2 as long as 2 or more non-land permanents have entered the battlefield under your control this turn as a 3/1. Becoming a 3/3, not the worst. I get it. You can probably utilize this celebration specifically in a roll token deck, but outside of that, I don't know so much. Area Interference for 3, instant speed, preventing all damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn by creatures. I mean, it lets you kind of block aggressively. But, I don't know. Maybe. I like permanent removal. Back for seconds. 3 mana, sorcery speed with Bargain, returning up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was Bargain, you may put one of those creatures with mana value 4 or less from, that graveyard to the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. That's not bad. 3 mana, 2 things back, 1 into, and 4, like you're paying 3 to play a 4-drop while simultaneously getting, another 3-drop or something back. Return target shouldered to the battlefield. That's all I see when I'm reading this, Into the Fey Court for 5, sorcery speed, drawing 3 cards, creating a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying, and this creature can only block other creatures with flying. A little expensive, A little expensive for sorcery speed. Royal treatment for 1, instant speed. Target creature you control gains hexproof until the end of turn. Furthermore, you create a Royal Row token. Attached to it, it's going to get +1/+1 and have Ward 1. Future protection with that Ward 1's not bad. +1/+1's also pretty chill, brah. Moving on, we will have the Storm Elk. This is a 3/4 with trample, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on the Elkoni. Peer Through Clouds for 2 mana, instant speed adventure, drawing 2 cards, discarding 2 cards. What is he saying? You heard me. We like it. Good value for an uncommon. A lot of these uncommon adventures are going to be incredibly present within the limited gameplay. Not to write off the others. They're still going to be used a lot, but, there's only so much value you can get with 40 cards, and the person who gets the most value typically wins, and these adventure cards are just so good at that. It's like, you're already lots of the time running the front side adventure spell in your deck anyways, and now you're just getting an extra card attached to it. Come on. Let's go. Leyline of Sanctity. 4 mana. If it's in your opening hand as the game starts, it will be in the battlefield, which is kind of crazy, and it's going to give you hexproof. Moving on, we have the Galvanic Giant for 4, a 3/3. Whenever you cast a mana valued spell with 5 or greater, tap target creature and opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. For 7 mana at instant speed, that's so expensive. As the adventure, drawing 4 cards, then discarding 2 cards. That might be too expensive. I don't know about this one so much. That 7 mana, and you want to cast this before the creature, typically, right? So I don't know. I don't know about that. Grand Ball Guest for 2 mana, a 2/2 with Celebration, +1/+1, and Trample. If 2 or more non-land permanents have entered the battlefield this turn. Could be good, I don't want to write out these cheap Celebration cards because I do feel like there's going to be a really good Celebration aggro deck in Limited. The Celebration cards with the roll token mechanic, that, a permanent that makes another permanent, so it's only 1 card, not 2 cards, and then it's triggering more consistently, and maybe even multiple times each turn. Moving on, the Charmed Clother for 5, a 3/3. And when it enters the battlefield, create a Royal Row token attached to another target creature you control, +1/+1, Ward 1. The Spear Guard for 1 mana. with haste as a 1/1. And when it dies, create a 1/1 black rat creature token that cannot block. The Voracious Vermin for 3, a 2/1. And when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on the Vermin. That's actually pretty good. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's great. When it enters the battlefield, it creates a token, which is good too. So this is very good value as an uncommon. Look out for that. The Twisted Sewer Witch for 5, a 3/4, and when it enters the battlefield, creates a 1/1 rat, can't block. And then for each rat you control, create a Wicked Roll token attached to that rat. It's going to get +1/+1, and when put into the graveyard, each opponent's going to lose 1 life. That's actually a pretty good ability. Maybe, well, it's 5 mana though. So expensive. So expensive. Belligerent of the Ball. Belligerent? Belligerent. Belligerent, right? 3 mana, 3/3 with Celebration. You already know what it is. It's going to get +1/+0 when it's triggered and menace until the end of turn. Tails for the a tail for the ages. 2 mana. Enchanted creatures you control get +2/+2. This is not bad considering all of the roll tokens are enchantment auras. Solitaire. We're getting too long. How long have we been here? Over an hour of me rambling, and we probably still have hundreds of cards to go. He's losing it. All right. The Sanctuary for 3 mana. As it enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls, and then put a stun counter on it. And whenever you tap an untapped creature and opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's really good. That's really, really good with the tap mechanic that is present. Solitary Sanctuary. Okay. Dark Tutelage for 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand and lose life equal to its mana value. Karmic Justice for 3. Whenever you cast a spell, whenever a spell or an ability an opponent controls destroys a non-creature permanent you control, you may destroy target permanent an opponent controls. That's kind of crazy. Season of Growth for 2. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. And whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. Cool. Leyline of Abundance. When you start the game with this card in your hand, it will start in the battlefield, which is cool. Furthermore, we can pay 8 to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. Moving on to Yenna, Red Tooth Regent for 4, a 4/4 that can pay 2, tap target enchantment you control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent that you control, and create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't a legendary. That's so broken. Look out, jank players. And if the token is an aura, untap the Regent, which will allow you to redo that. And then scry 2 at sorcery speed. So, you can activate this multiple times. You can copy legendaries. This is all about it. We here, homie. Kellen's Blade. 2 mana, instant speed with Bargain, dealing 3 damage to target attacking creature or blocking creature. If it was bargained, destroy that creature instead. That's really nice removal, right? Then we have the Raging Firebolt for 3 mana, instant speed, X damage to target creature, where X is 2 plus the number of instant and sorcery cards with adventure in your graveyard. Team your adventures, there's going to be a lot of adventure in limited as well, and this is going to help support that. Moving on, we have the Pollen Shield Hair for 2 mana, a 2/2. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1. The Hair Raising for 1 at sorcery speed adds the adventure. Target creature you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This is very good. This goes nicely with the other rabbit that we've seen. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. Mono white rabbit aggro. Well, this is Selesnya rabbit aggro. Get it straight. I am here for it. I'm totally game. Up the Beanstalk for 2, an enchantment when it enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. Mana value 5 or greater, isn't that a little bit ridiculous? It's good in maybe, again, the limited or free-to-play adventure deck, because sometimes you're getting good value on the front side of adventure, and then the tag on is just, it's too expensive, but it would trigger it, you know, and then you're not just building a bad deck with mana value 5 cards, as you still have that early utility within all the cheap adventures that have, you know, the big fatties on the backside. Okay. Mocking Sprite, 3 mana, 2/1 with flying. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's decent as a fairy rogue, keep in mind. The best of both worlds, fairy rogue, beautiful. Graceful takedown for 2 sorcery. Any number of target enchanted creatures you control and up to 1 other target creature you control deal damage equal to their power to target creature you don't control. Interesting. Prophetic Prism, 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, pay 1, tap it, add 1 mana of any color. Water Wings for 2 instant speed until the end of turn. Target creature you control has base power and toughness of 4/4 and gains flying and hexproof. Nice. I like that. Instant speed, hexproof, and 4/4. So it's good against removal, but it's also good against attackers, right? That's not bad. Freeze in place for 2 mana, sorcery speed. Tap target creature and opponent controls and put 3 stun counters on it. Plus you scry 2. Are you freaking kidding me? Now that's a banger. Oh my gosh. Boundary. Lands Ranger. 2 mana, 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That's not bad, actually. That's pretty decent. The Gingerbread Hunter. 5 mana. So this is what we're talking about with these terrible adventures. It's a 5/5 when it enters the battlefield to create a food token. But you get this 3 mana instant speed. Target creature gets -2/-2 until the end of turn, right? So it makes it much more viable to be running something like this with these adventure cards, okay? Picklock Prankster for 2 mana, 1/3, Flying Vigilance, Fairy Rogue. Free the Fae for 2 at instant speed, milling 4 cards, then putting an instant or sorcery or fairy from among them into your hand. Not the worst. You know, that's still card advantage, right? Cheeky House Mouse for 1, a 2/1 with Squeak By or Squawk. Squeak? Squawk? Squeak? Sorcery speed. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate that. That is absolutely phenomenal. Right? Spell Stutter for 2 mana, instant speeds. This is my spell, baby. Let's go. Counter target spell and lets its controller pays 2 plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control. Yeah, okay. Sure. Moving on. Spell Scorn Coven for 4 mana, 2/3 with flying. And when it enters the battlefield, each opponent will discard a card. We do have the Adventure at instant speed for 3, take it back, returning target spell to its owner's hand. That is nice. That's not bad at all. Fairy Slumber Party, I bet. For 6 mana, sorcery speed, return all creatures to their owner's hands. For each opponent who controlled a creature returned this way, you create 2 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying, and this creature can only block creatures with flying. That is bomb. Expensive, but dang, I'm going to convoke this all day long, bro. Oh my god, this is crazy in Commander too, right? You just make so many fairies in Commander if your opponents have a bunch of creatures. That's wild. I like it. And yeah, fun card. Welcome to Sweet Tooth. 2 mana. When it enters, creating a 1/1 human creature token. Then on your next draw step, creating a food token. Finally, on your following draw step, putting X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of foods that you control. So this is pretty cool to play like a bunch of, you know, and it's just a good card. Furthermore, we will have the Hearth Elemental, 6 mana, 4/5, X less to cast, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant sorcery and have adventure. Cool. We do have Stroke Genius for 2 mana at sorcery speed as the adventure, discarding your hand and then drawing 2 cards. That's crazy good, you know? Discard an empty hand and draw 2 cards. Yeah, okay. Storyteller Pixie for 4, 3/3 flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, draw a card. That is good. Experimental Confectioner. 3 mana, 2/3 When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Furthermore, whenever you sacrifice food, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. That's not once each turn? Whoa! That is abusable. Whenever you sacrifice a food, create a 1/1. Okay. The Malevolent Witch Kite for 6, a 5/4 with flying, and whenever it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of artifacts or enchantments. And draw that many cards. So that's a thing. That's a thing. Old Fitter Fang for 5, a 3/4 with flying. Really, that's cool. Rat with wings. Isn't that just a bat? At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, create a food token. Furthermore, we can pay 3 to sacrifice another creature or artifact, giving the Fitter Fang +2/+2 until the end of turn. Become Brutes for 2 mana, sorcery speed. Up to, 1 or 2 target creatures each gain haste until the end of turn. For each of those creatures, create a monster roll token attached to it. It's just going to get +1/+1 and have trample. So for 2 mana, 2 creatures get +1/+1 trample haste at sorcery speed. That's, not the worst. Charging Hooligan for 4 mana. Whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn for each attacking creature. Okay. And if a rat is attacking, the Hooligan gains trample until the end of turn. That is decent, right? So that's not bad. The Ogre Chitterlord for 6. A little expensive, bro. 6/5 with menace. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens that cannot block. Then if you control 5 or more rats, each rat you control gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. Well, that's a thing, though, Intrepid Truffle Snout for 2 mana, 3/1. When it attacks alone, create a food token. Go Hog Wild. Add instant speed as the adventure for 2 mana. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Provisions Merchant for 4 as a 3/3. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create a food token. And whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, attacking creatures get +1/+1 and gain trample until the end of turn. Nart Bard. Wildwood Mentor for 3 mana, a 1/1. Whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the Mentor. And whenever the Mentor attacks, another attacking creature you control gets +X/+X until the end of turn, equal to its power. The Rowdy Research for 7, instant speed. 1 less to cast for each creature that's attacked this turn, drawing 3 cards. Lady of Laughter for 5, 4/5 with flying, celebration to draw a card. 2 non-permanents, right? 5 mana, pretty expensive. Food Coma for 4. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Create a food token. Pests of Horror for 3, 2/2 with celebration, +1/+1 counter on it when that is triggered, which is not too bad, I guess. The Court of Garenbrig, we don't care about because it's a commander card. If you guys are looking for a commander set review, please let me know and consider supporting the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, very easy. Okay, excuse me. The Vampiric Rites for 1 black mana, paying 2, sacrificing a creature, gaining 1 life, and drawing a card. Wowzers! Leyline of Anticipation, if it's in your opening hand, start the game with it in the battlefield, and you may cast spells as though they've had flash. Very cool card. Blind Obedience for 2. Extort. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay 1 hybrid Origin of mana. If you do, an opponent will lose 1 life, and you're going to gain that much life. Furthermore, artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. We have Compulsion for 2 mana. Paying 2, discarding a card, drawing a card. Paying 2, sacrificing Compulsion to draw a card. Hatching Plans for 2 mana. When it's put into your graveyard from the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Woohoo! That's a thing. Dragon Mantle for 1. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. An enchanted creature has pay 1 red. This creature gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. As Foretold for 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold, and once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the number of mana for a spell that you cast with X or less, where X is the number of counters on Foretold. All right. Moving into some more constructed cards here. Ariad's Tempting Apple, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Untap creature, it gains haste until the end of turn. Decent. Paying 2, tapping it, sacrificing it, gaining 3 life. Paying 2, tapping it, sacrificing it. Opponent loses 3 life. Oh, that's not bad. Succumb to the Cold for 3 mana, instant speed. Tap up to 2 target creature and opponent controls, then put a stun counter on each of them. That's pretty good, right? We do not mind. Snaremaster Spirit, Sprite. Yes. A 1 mana 1/1 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. When you do, tap target creature and opponent controls, and then put a stun counter on it. That's not bad. Borrow Naughty, 2 mana, 1/3 with flying. It's a fairy as well, and it's going to have lifelink as long as you control another fairy. Furthermore, we can pay 3 to give it +1/+0 until the end of turn. Collector's Vault for 2. Paying 2, tapping it, drawing a card, then discarding a card, creating a treasure token. That's not bad. Unruly Catapult for 3. A 0/4 with Defender, tapping it, dealing 1 damage to each opponent. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, untap it. We like it. Red Tooth Vanguard for 2. A 3/1 with Trample. And whenever you have an enchantment enter the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, return the Vanguard from your graveyard to your hand. That is very nice. Aquatic Alchemist, 2 mana, a 1/3, and whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell, each turn the Alchemist will get +2/+0 until the end of turn. Bubble up for 3 at sorcery speed as the adventure attached, putting target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of it, on top of your library, of course. Very, very nice. Gingerbrute for 1, a reprint, 1/1, has haste. Pay 1, can't be blocked except with creatures with haste. Pay 2, sacrifice it, gain 3 life as a food, right? Disdainful Stroke, another reprint. Instant speed, counter target spell with mana value 4 or greater. Candy Trail for 1, a food clue. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. We can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, gain 3 life. Scream Puff for 5, a 4/5 with Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a food token. Candy Grapple, I love it, for 2 mana with Bargain at instant speed. Target creature gets -3/-3 until the end of turn. If it was bargained, it's going to get -5/-5 instead. I love it. The Iron Crag for 2, tapping for generic mana, and whenever you cast, whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, so not, well, maybe better actually, depending which way you look at that, it's going to become a legendary equipment named the Everflame Hero's Legacy, and if you do transform it into that, it's going to gain Equip 3, and equipped creature gets +3/+3, and will lose all abilities. You know, it's like a pretty cool commander mana stone, I feel like. You know, I'm sure it's playable elsewhere too. I'm not sure if it's going to be... Yeah, I mean, there's lots of... There's the Joda deck out there. The fact that it makes colorless mana is not super good, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a thing. It's a thing, right? A 2 mana rock is a thing. The Witchstalker Frenzy for 4 mana. And this will cast for 1 less for each creature that you have attacked with this turn. And it's going to deal 5 damage to target creature. I like it. Dream Spoilers for 4. A 2/2 Fairy Warlock with flying. Whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, up to 1 target creature and opponent control gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. That's quite good. Rankle's Prank for 4. Sorcery speed. Choosing 1 or more, which is nice. Target player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. What a bomb commander card. The Witch's Vanity for 2 mana. As it enters, destroy target creature and opponent controls with mana value 2 or less. Then when you draw your next card, create a food token. And then finally on your, following draw, because that is when we trigger the lore counter, so it is on your draw step, right? Is it draw or... I think it's draw. Yeah, right after your draw step. Creating a Wicked Roll token attached to a creature that you control. And of course, when that goes to the grave, they're going to lose life. The Songbird's Blessing for 4. This is a more of a commander thing here, right? Virtue and Valor. Moving on to the, more commander here. Bay Dominion. Okay, we do have some constructed cards here, thankfully. The Woodland Alakite for 3 mana, a 2/2, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Nice. At instant speed, for 1 mana as the adventure, putting target permanent card from your graveyard on top of your library. Not bad. Moving on, we have the Gumdrop Poisoner, a 3 mana, 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent gets target creature gets -X/-X until the end of turn, where X is the number of life you gain this turn. This is very, very good for 1 mana at instant speed as the adventure. Create a food token. Not bad. I like that. It's a 3 mana potential removal spell, right? As a creature. I like it. Just got to gain some life, homie. Virtue of Courage for 5 mana as an enchantment, and whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you may exile that many cards from the top of your library and play those cards this turn. Okay, that's unlimited gas. And it has instant speed adventure, Embereth Blaze, dealing 2 damage to any target. That is a very good card. Quick Study for 3 instant speed, draw 2 cards, sure. Imodane's Recruiter for 3 mana, a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until the end of turn. Train Troops for 5 at sorcery speed as the adventure, creating 2/2s with vigilance. Virtue of Strength for 7. If you tap a non-basic land for mana, it's going to produce 3 times that much mana instead. Kind of combo-y. Garenbrig Growth, sorcery speed as the adventure, returning target creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, that's doable, right? So you're playing like, some kind of ramp or ramp mill deck, and this is going to go great there. Moving on, we have the Crystal Grotto. This is a reprint, entering the battlefield, scrying 1, tapping to add mana of generic, and then paying 1 to tap for any color. The Scarecrow Guide for 2, a 2/1 with reach, paying 1, adding mana of any color at sorcery. Not sorcery, only once each turn. Interesting. For some reason, I thought that was a sorcery trigger. Verdant Outrider for 3, a 4/2 that can pay 2. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Toadstool Admirer for 1, a 1/1 with Ward 2. Paying 4, putting a +1/+1 counter on the Admirer. That's actually pretty decent if you're ramping. The Ward's not bad either, right? Early game. Titanic Growth for 2, instant speed, reprint, +4/+4 until the end of turn. Territorial Witchstalker for 2, 2/3 with Defender. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it gets +1/+0 and can attack as though it did not have Defender. Spider Food for 3, sorcery, destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, and create a food token. Decent. Redtooth Genealogist for 3, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a royal roll, +1/+1, ward 1. Attach it to a creature you control. Leaping Ambush for 1, instant speed, +1/+3. Reach until the end of turn and untap it. Combo decks are going to go wild for that. Another piece for them. Hollow Scavenger for 3 mana, a 3/2 that can pay 1, sacrificing a food to give it +2/+2 until the end of turn. Only once each turn. Bakery Raid for 1, creating a food token at sorcery speed. Hamlet Glutton for 7, 6/6 with Bargain, 2 less to cast if it was bargained, with Trample, and when it enters the battlefield, gain 3 life. Lots going on there. The Ferocious Werefox for 4, it's a 4/3 with Trample. Guard Change for 2 at instant speed as the adventure, creating a monster roll and attaching it to a creature we control. Curse of the Werefox for 3, sorcery, creating a monster roll, attaching it to a creature, and then when you do, that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Commune with Nature for 1 mana, sorcery speed, looking at the top 5 cards of your library, revealing a creature card from among them, putting it into your hand, then the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. Sorry, in any order, a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Bestial Bloodline for 2. An aura, enchanted creature gets +2/+2, pay 5 to return it from your graveyard to your hand. Witch's Mask for 2. You may discard a card if you do draw 2 cards, decent, at sorcery speed, creating a wicked roll attached to 1 target creature you control, +1/+1. When it's sent to the grave, opponent's going to lose 1 life. Skewer Slinger, 2 mana, 1/3 with reach. Whenever it becomes blocked or is blocked, create a deal 1 damage to that creature. Redcap Thief for 3, a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token, decent. That's really going to be nice and limited. Minecart Daredevil for 3, a 4/2 with Ride the Rails at 2 mana for instant speed. Target creature gets +2/+1 until the end of turn. Merry Bards for 3, a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, pay 1. If you do, create a Young Hero roll token attached to a creature you control. Kindled Heroism for 1, instant speed, creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until the end of turn, scry 1. The Grabby Giants for 4, 4/3 with reach, pay 3, sacrifice an artifact or land, draw a card. That's mine for 2 instant speed, creating a treasure. Decent. 9 Crescendo for 3 instant speed. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until the end of turn. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black rat that cannot block. Edgewell Pact for 4. A 3/3 with Menace. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 rat that can't block. Bespoke Battle Garb for 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Celebration. It's going to attach to a creature you control and equip for 2 regularly. That's not for Mirrodin, I'll tell you what. Bellowing Bruiser for 5 mana, 4/4 with haste. Beat a Path for 3 at sorcery speed. Up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn. Wicked Visor for 2, 2/2. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. That's great. That's really nice. Sugar Rush for 2. Instant speed. Target creature gets +3/+0 until the end of turn and draw a card. Stingblade Assassin for 4, 3/1 with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Interesting. Not too shabby. Shatter the Oath for 5, destroying target creature or enchantments. And when you do so, I guess you also create a Wicked Roll token attached to a creature you control. +1/+1, sent to grave. They lose 1 life. Monstrosity for 2. A 3/1. When it dies, create a food token. High Fae Negotiator for 5, 3/5, bargain flying. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. Decent. Fell Horseman for 4, a 3/3. When it dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Deathly Ride for 2 at sorcery speed, returning target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Feed the Cauldron for 3 at instant speed, destroying target creature with mana value 3 or less. If it's your turn, create a food token. Arius Whisper for 4. Target opponent discard. Target opponent discards 2 cards, and you'll create a Wicked Roll. Again, +1/+1 when it goes to the grave. They're going to lose life. Vantress Transmuter for 4, a 3/4 with Cloaking Curse for 2 at sorcery. Tapping target creature, creating a Curse Roll token. It's going to be 1/1. Tenacious Tome Seeker, a 3/2 for 3. At this point, oh my gosh, with bargain, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. The Stormkeld Prowler for 2, a 2/1. Whenever he casts a spell with mana value 5 or greater, put 2 +1/+1 counters on the Prowler. Abaria Attendance, 5 mana, 3/4 with flying. Desperate Parry for 2. Target creature you control gets target creature gets -4, -0 until the end of turn. Yeah, I just don't think that's that great. Misleading Moats, 4 mana, instant speed. Target creature's owners will put it on the top or bottom of their library. Oh, okay. A little expensive, but it's there. Merfolk Coralsmith for 3, 1 mana. A 2/3, pay 1, it gets +1, -1 until the end of turn. When it dies, scry 2. The Diminisher Witch, 3 mana, 3/2 with bargain. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargain, create a Cursed Roll token attached to target creature and opponent controls. It's a 1/1, base power and toughness. Balluna's Gatekeeper for 6 mana. It's a 6/5 with entry denied for 2 at sorcery speed, returning target creature you don't control with mana value 3 or less to its owner's hand. Archive Dragon for 6, a 4/6 with Flying War 2. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. That's a fatty. Unassuming Sage for 2 mana, a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, create a Sorcerer Roll token attached to it. Unveiled Guide, 4 mana, 3/2 with Flying, Celebration, +1 and lifelink until the end of turn. Stockpiling Celebrant for 3, a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may return a target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand if you do scry 2. Slumbling, that's actually, I like this card, right? Because we were looking at some other things that we'd like to replay. That's quite nice. Looking at you, blue enchantment that bounces everything. Slumbering Keepguard for 1 mana, a 1/1. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1, pay 3. It gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each enchantment you control. Savor of the Sleeping, you're my boy. 3 mana, 2/3 with Vigilance. Whenever enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the Savior. That's very good. Rhyme Fur Reindeer for 4 mana. It's a Rhinoceros for 3/4. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. Meh. Protective Parents for 3, a 3/2. When it dies, create a young hero role token attached to it. Attached to a creature you control. Again, if its power was 3 or less, when it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Plunge into Winter for 2, instant speed. Tap up to 1 target creature, scry 1, then draw a card. Nice. Moment of Valor for 3, instant speed, choosing 1. Tap target creature, gets +1/+0, and gains indestructible until the end of turn. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That's decent. Hopeful Vigil, a 2-mana enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 White Knight with Vigilance. When it is put into the graveyard, scry 2, and we can sacrifice it for 3. Decent. Frost Bridge Guard for 2, 2/2, paying 3, tapping target creature. Cooped Up for 2. An Aura, enchanted creature can't attack or block. Pay 3 to exile enchanted creature. Decent. Archon's Glory, 1-mana bargain. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. If it was bargained, it also gains flying and lifelink until the end of turn. And that is the complete set. Ladies and gentlemen, waste not for 2. There's still one more. Whenever an opponent discards a card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever an opponent discards a land, create 2 black mana. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, draw a card. I believe we already have this in the game, but look at this cool alt art you can rock now. Oh my gosh. That is all 323 cards. I have been speaking for well over an hour here. We did get it done. Didn't take the full 2 hours, but at the end of the day, we did gain some general awareness of the set. I'll tell you what, I don't see an Embercleave. I don't see a Great Henge. I don't see a Questing Beast. I don't even see a Fervent Knight. What was that guy's name? There's some good stuff here. I really like a couple of these adventure cards. I feel like they really try to tune that in and have them not be as aggressive. We're going to be looking for the bombs, though, like I said, in the following days as we are theory crafting, deck building. Let me know what you're interested in, because at the end of the day, I am here to serve. And, really looking forward to the early access event. Like I said, it's on the 1st, starting on the 31st. And we're going to be live on Twitch alongside all of the other great content creators in the space. So if you're ever going to take a day to hang out, that'll be it. Come say hello. And, before you leave here, for all the hard work, words, bro, leave a like. It's, if all I could do here today was leave a like, I would be super duper happy, right? So I appreciate each and every one of you who've taken the moment out of your day to do this. Of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our new decks as they come out as well. And most importantly, just have an absolute magical day, and we'll catch you soon in the next video.